Well, for more on the escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and China, we are joined by Ronce Almond. He's partner and vice president at the Wicks Group. Welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Can the United States afford to do this?
Well, Susan, I think that's what President Trump, he's making the bet that they can. I mean, obviously, he wouldn't go forward with this tariff move if he didn't think he could withstand it politically and economically. But you know, it's a huge gamble that President Trump is taking, because so far the U.S. economy is growing nearly at 4%, unemployment's at record lows. But the veneer of competency could be punctured very quickly if this trade war gets out of hand and the U.S. economy is damaged by it.
So some U.S. companies are going to be granted a right to apply for exclusion, saying they just can't afford this. This is all supposed to go into effect July 6th. Do you see that?
Well, you know, we saw, I think it's important to look at an analogous, an alternative, and that's in the sense of the steel and aluminum tariffs with the EU and Canada and Mexico. There were some back and forth discussions. The Trump administration felt that they weren't getting what they needed, and so they moved forward with those steel and aluminum tariffs at the beginning of June. So I think we could very well see on July 6th, $34 billion worth of goods tariffs going forward against China, and then of course China taking retaliatory action. And
so what do we expect that to look like?
Well, it's going to harm, as we heard in the broadcast, a lot of U.S. industry, starting with automobiles. Over 200,000 automobiles, U.S.-built automobiles are sold in China each year. China was willing to lower the tariff for foreign-made automobiles as part of the deal with the Trump administration. That's now off the table. Right now, we see that soybeans, a huge export from the United States to China, or $14 billion worth of soybeans that China has imported from the United States. 90% of the soybean crop has already been planted in the United States. And if they cut off, if the U.S. farmers cut off from the world's most important market for soybeans, it's going to damage them. Purdue University already came with a study and said the Chinese retaliatory action, if it moves forward on July 6th, could cut production by 15% in the United States.
You know, it looked like they were going to be able to work something out for a while.
Yeah, I think the world was stunned, even here in Washington and Beijing. I think people were very surprised because there seemed like a detente was reached in May. It seemed like the process was moving forward, a constructive dialogue. But then all of a sudden we saw a reversal of course at the end of the month, and Mr. Trump said we're moving forward with these tariffs. And I think it represents that the hardliners within the administration have won out.
That's right. I was just going to say there was a back and forth between his own administration. Some were advocating for dialogue, let's talk it out. Others are saying let's move forward.
Exactly. So it's hard to determine at any given day or minute within this White House what the next policy is going to be. And I think it hurts American interests because there's a reputational damage that the White House has created for itself the way it's carried out its negotiations so far.
So what do you think ZTE actually had to do with this?
You know, it's interesting that if you listen to the U.S. trade representative, Mr. Lighthizer, he would say that this is an enforcement action that's totally separate from any type of trade negotiation. But of course, Mr. Trump's own words belie that. And when he linked essentially the ZTE investigation and enforcement action to the trade negotiations, so I think they're very much linked.
They are, absolutely. All righty. Well, thank you so much, Ronce Almond. We appreciate it. Vice President of the Wicks Group.
Thank you.
Thank you.